Today we're going to look at 10 great people who weren't great actually. Starting off with number 10 is Albert Einstein. Albert, born in 1878, was a German both theorist and physicist, and one of the most famous scientists best known for developing the theory of relativity and contributed greatly to the understanding of physics. Also known as one with a great intelligence quotient level between 160 to 190, though he never took any test. But this great man wasn't so great. Einstein advocated for the development of the atomic bomb. Yes, the atomic bomb. The Riot of Wars. A man with such great IQ sure had some troubles with women. Having so many allegations of affairs and controversies, he was known to have married only twice at different times, one of which was his first cousin. Apparently, all men, no matter your IQ level, have lady troubles. And if you did have an IQ the level of Einstein's, you might still die of excessive smoking, like Einstein. Number 9. Napoleon Bonaparte. Former Emperor of France, Napoleon was known as one of the most successful generals of the French Revolutionary armies. A fierce general, one who died of peptic ulcer. Apparently he wasn't feeling well enough. One would think a powerful general as he would have many slaves to care for him. Speaking of slaves, he led numerous wars across Europe, causing massive casualties, reintroduced slavery in French colonies. He also formed French laws with the Napoleonic Code, military and political leader who rose to prominence during the French Revolution. Number 8. Nelson Mandela, a leader in the struggle against apartheid, first Black president of South Africa. Born in 1918 and died in 2013. Mandela was married to Evelyn Tokomase, Winnie Madikizela, Graça Machel. Aside from being a politician, he was a philanthropist, activist, and a lawyer. Although he was repeatedly arrested for seditious activities and was unsuccessfully prosecuted in the 1956 treason trial, one would think such a great lawyer would know how to manipulate the law. He also led a sabotage campaign against the apartheid government. He was arrested and imprisoned in 1962, and following the Rivonia trial, was sentenced to life imprisonment for conspiring to overthrow the state. Mandela served 27 years in prison, split between Robben Island, Pollsmoor Prison, and Victor Verster Prison. Mandela and the clerk led efforts to negotiate an end to apartheid, which resulted in the 1994 multiracial general election in which Mandela led the ANC to victory and became president. So yes, you can also become president after serving time. Although he had early involvement in violent resistance, accusations of human rights violations during his presidency which caused a lot of fumes, he was still a good president. Number 7. Abraham Lincoln. Born in 1809, Lincoln was the 16th president of the United States, led the nation through the Civil War, and abolished slavery. Lincoln led the United States through the American Civil War, expanding the power of the federal government and modernizing the U.S. economy. Yep, he's the reason America is as great as it is. Part of what made him great is that he suspended habeas corpus during the Civil War. His views on racial equality were complex and evolved over time. The habeas corpus is a recourse in law by which a report can be made to a court in the events of unlawful detention or imprisonment, requesting that the court order the person's custodian to bring the prisoner to court to determine whether their detention is lawful. And not everyone liked that because imagine having slaves report their masters. Abraham was rumored to be a vampire and having so many assassination attempts, finally died by assassination in 1865. Number 6. Alexander the Great, a Macedonian king who conquered the Eastern Mediterranean, Egypt, and Middle East, and parts of Asia in a remarkably short period of time. What can you do in a short period of time? Alexander succeeded his father Philip II to the throne in 336 BC at the age of 20, and spent most of his ruling years conducting a lengthy military campaign throughout Western Asia, Central Asia, parts of South Asia. By the age of 30, he had created one of the greatest empires in history, stretching from Greece to northwestern India. He was undefeated in battles and is widely considered to be one of history's greatest and most successful military commanders. His military achievements and unprecedented enduring successes in battles made him the measure against which many later military leaders would compare themselves to. Alexander, known for ruthless military tactics and the destruction of cities, his conquests caused widespread death and suffering. As much as his people had a great ruler, they suffered because of him. Number 5. Martin Luther King Jr. was an American Baptist minister, activist, and political philosopher who was one of the most prominent leaders in the civil rights movement from 1955 until his assassination in 1968. A black church leader and a son of early civil rights activist and minister Martin Luther King Sr. King advanced civil rights for people of color in the United States through the use of nonviolent resistance and nonviolent civil disobedience against Jim Crow laws and other forms of legalized discrimination. He also participated in and led marches for the right to vote, desegregation, labor rights, and other civil rights. He oversaw the 1955 Montgomery bus boycott and later became the first president of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, SCLC. As president of the SCLC, he led the unsuccessful Albany movement in Albany, Georgia, and helped organize some of the nonviolent 1963 protests in Birmingham, Alabama. King was one of the leaders of the 1963 March of Washington, where he delivered his "I Have a Dream" speech on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, and helped organize 2 of the 3 Selma to Montgomery marches during the 1965 Selma voting rights movement. In 1968, King was planning a national occupation of Washington, D.C., to be called the Poor People's Campaign, when he was assassinated on April the 4th in Memphis, Tennessee. James Earl Ray, a fugitive from the Missouri State Penitentiary, was convinced of the assassination, though the King family believes he was a scapegoat. The assassination remains the subject of conspiracy theories. King's death was followed by national mourning, as well as anger leading to riots in many U.S. cities. With such achievements, just like many great men, he had allegations of marital affairs and connections with the individuals with controversial backgrounds. He was also deemed to be misogynistic. Number 4. Winston Churchill. He was Prime Minister of the United Kingdom during the World War II, renowned for his leadership and oratory. He could woo you with his words. He was one of the 20th century's most significant figures. Churchill remains popular in the UK and the rest of the Anglosphere. He is generally viewed as a victorious wartime leader who defended liberal democracy against the spread of fascism, and as a liberal reformer who spurred the creation of the modern welfare state. However, recent scholarship has been more critical of Churchill, especially with regards to his views on race and his unwavering commitment to British imperialism. He advocated imperialist policies, held racist views, and made decisions leading to the Bengal famine of 1963. Number 3. Mahatma Gandhi. MK Gandhi was an Indian independence activist and leader who played a key role in the peaceful resistance movement against British colonial rule. He was also a prolific writer and thinker, writing extensively on topics like nonviolence, civil disobedience, and social justice. Gandhi's mother, Putli Bai, was completely absorbed in religion, did not care much for finery or jewelry, divided her time between her home and the temple, fasted frequently, and wore herself out on days and nights of nursing whenever there was sickness in the family. Apparently, Gandhi was good in English, fair in arithmetic, and weak in geography. Gandhi also had very bad handwriting. It was sometimes hard to read his works. He was married at the age of 13 and thus lost a year at school. A diffident child, he shone neither in the classroom nor in the playing field. He loved to go out on long solitary walks when he was not nursing his, by then, ailing father, who died soon thereafter, or helping his mother with her household chores. He held controversial views on race during his time in South Africa, had unusual controversial personal practices and beliefs, which a lot of people found weird. Number 2. Christopher Columbus. Born in 1451 and died in 1506. Christopher went to sea at a young age and traveled widely, as far north as the British Isles and as far south as what is now Ghana. He married Portuguese noblewoman Filipa Moniz Perestrello, who bore a son, Diego, and was based in Lisbon for several years. He later took a Castilian mistress, Beatriz Enriquez de Arana, who bore a son, Ferdinand. He then visited the islands now known as Cuba and Hispaniola, establishing a colony in what is now Haiti. Columbus returned to Castile in early 1493 with captured natives. Word of his voyage soon spread throughout Europe. He also initiated the transatlantic slave trade, which changed the course of history and was responsible for brutal treatment and exploitation of indigenous populations. So basically, he is the cause of modern-day crisis. Number 1. Thomas Jefferson, born in 1743 and died in 1826. Jefferson was an American statesman, planter, diplomat, lawyer, architect, philosopher, and founding father who served as the 3rd president of the United States from 1801 to 1809. Jefferson's public achievements, including his advocacy of religious freedom and tolerance, his peaceful acquisition of the Louisiana Territory from France, and his leadership in supporting the Lewis and Clark expedition, acknowledging the fact of his lifelong ownership of large numbers of slaves. He also was the founder of the University of Virginia. He owned a lot of slaves and even had a relationship with Sally Hemings, one of his enslaved women, which was seen as an act so disgusting back then. He also made policies leading to displacement of Native American tribes. So far, we've understood that there are villains and heroes, and sometimes the heroes are villains to some people.